Hi, welcome back to this channel. Today I'm very excited and very happy because Li Ning has sent me two rackets for me to review, and this is the Li Ning Halbertech 8000 and this is the AxForce 100. They're both very popular. In fact, when I asked around my friends and I asked them what kind of racket do they want me to review besides the Yonex racket, of course Li Ning came out very popular, and Victor as well. And among all the Li Ning models, these two are the ones that most people want to hear about. Okay, so today we're going to go deep dive into the specifications, the measurements, and even the performance in the court. And we'll do this one by one, comparing each model against the other. Okay, so the racket I'm holding right here is the Halbertech 8000. You can see that the colors are really striking and contrasting. Right, most people either really like it or they really don't like it. Right, you see the pink is like hot pink, and the blue is like an electric blue. And when you go down to the shaft, right, one side of it is black, but when you roll and flip over to the other side, it becomes like a white racket. So I would say that overall, in terms of the look, it's a very contrasting looking racket. When I first saw it, it really caught my attention. I am not very certain yet whether I like this design or not, right? But it surely is very eye-catching. Now, this is the AxForce 100. Now, I feel so much easier to explain now, to share with you what this racket looks like, because I really like the design on this one. Okay, it has a very nice matte finish, a very smooth finish. Mostly it has a black background, which really adds to the coolness of it. And most of the design has this gold contrasting color on it. Right, and more than just the black and gold color of the racket, they have this special unique feature in their AxForce racket, and that is that they have a mythical creature tag to each model. So for the AxForce 100, I believe it's the dragon. So if you see closely in this zoom-in version, you will see the dragon in the middle of the shaft with its claws. And if you look at the frame, right, there are still design trails of the dragon and the tail and how it moves along the racket. So I thought that's really cool and very unique. You don't often see this in other models or other brands. In fact, I think they are likely the only one that does it this way. Yeah, so this is a really cool looking racket and it's very easy to accept. Okay, some of the selling points of this two rackets, right? They are quite similar in the sense that both supposed to have a stiff shaft, which will increase the power transfer when you smash. The technology that's involved is also the high level carbon that they're using, which is supposed to increase the accuracy and of course the power that I already mentioned. What's quite interesting to notice is that for the AxForce 100, as much as it's a very powerful racket, but it boasts of a very slim shaft of 6.00 mm. Right, so I think according to all the measurements that I've taken across all the rackets, this is either the slimmest or one of the slimmest shaft. Right, but is the statistic true? Okay, we're going to measure whatever that they claim and we're going to put it to the test. So just visually looking at these two, right, both of the frame, they are rather slim and they are rather similar. But according to their advertisement, the AxForce 100 should have a slimmer shaft. So let's see. Yeah? Okay, so the AxForce 100 shaft is at 6.2, which is just 0.2 off what they have advertised. Okay, in terms of the frame, this is 10.2. This is 10.2. Right, the side of the frame is at 9.6, and the top of the frame is at 10.2 again. Right, so this is not very unusual. Right, most frames are at around 10 mm, which is around 1 cm. Okay, as for the Halbertech 8000, the shaft is at 6.8 mm. Okay, so that's quite significantly thicker than the AxForce 100. Right, in terms of the frame, the bottom of the frame is at 9.9. Okay, the side of the frame is at 9.6. Right, and the top of the frame is much thicker at 10.4. So usually when it comes to the design of the frame, those frames that have a slimmer body will claim that it's a little bit more aerodynamic and more efficient in power transfer. And usually those frames that have a thicker width. Recently it's the NanoFlare 800 Pro and the NanoFlare 1000. Right? It is supposed to hold the tension of the strings better so that it doesn't shift so much when you do a counter drive or a smash, and that increases the power transfer. Right? So regardless of the design, there is a purpose or intention in it, and it really depends on the suitability of the design according to the style of the player. So now we're going to look at the length of the racket. So the Halbertech is at 68.2 cm, while the AxForce is at 68.1. This is pretty average. There's not much difference, but the next statistics will be more interesting, okay? So we're going to measure the length of the shaft. So for the Halbertech 8000, the length of the shaft is at 21 cm. And for the length of the shaft for the AxForce 100, it is at 20.5. Now, why this is interesting is that, remember, both are the same racket length, but the AxForce 100 will have a shorter shaft. What this means is that even if the material of the racket is the same, it's very likely that the AxForce 100 will already have a stiffer shaft because of the length, the shorter length of the shaft itself, right? So some people like the feeling of it in the court, some people don't like it. Something very similar is in the Yonex AxForce 100 Zigzag. So it has a very long grip and a very short shaft, right? So when you smash, you can really feel the stiffness of the racket and the power transfer, partially because of the material and partially because of the length of the shaft. In terms of the balance point for the racket, for the AxForce 100, the balance point is at 30.9 measuring from the bottom, whereas for the Halbertech 8000, the balance point is at 30. So what this means is that the AxForce 100 is slightly more head heavy than the Halbertech 8000. Now this may not sound like a big deal, right? 0.8 cm, but remember the racket length is not very long to begin with, so it is quite a high percentage. It's quite a lot of difference. And coupled with the fact that the AxForce 100 has a shorter shaft, it has a stiffer shaft, right? This means that AxForce 100 will really pack a punch when you use it for a smash. Okay, so next we're going to test the flexibility of the racket, right? And you know, I find it so hard to quantify, but this is the closest that I can get, where I put a 2 kg weight at the end of the racket to see how much displacement it creates. Okay, so let's see when I put this 2 kg weight on the Halbertech 8000, the displacement is at 10.3 cm. Okay, so that's pretty normal for a stiff racket. Okay, let's see for the AxForce 100. When I put the 2 kg weight, surprisingly it is also 10.3, which means both have a similar stiffness of the shaft, right? But how does it really translate in a court? Now I know that I often want to quantify all these statistics and measurements, right? And this gives you a sense of the characteristics of the racket. But still, most importantly is how it feels in a court. Okay, let's talk about the playability of these two rackets. Okay, I think these two rackets are quite easy to use, right? The sweet spot is not exactly very small. It is still okay to make a good contact, right? So if you are even an average player or intermediate player, you can give these two rackets a try. Okay, now let's talk about the drive, right, or the counter attack. Between these two rackets, the Halbertech gives a more explosive feeling to it, whereas the AxForce 100 gives a more stable feeling. So what this means is if you want that explosiveness or that power or the sudden counter attack, maybe the Halbertech 8000 is more for you. Whereas the AxForce 100 will give you a more stable play, you get more accuracy and control of it. You don't feel it's too difficult to control, and you feel like it's more comfortable to use. But when it comes to power, okay, when I'm doing like a full body smash, I feel that this AxForce 100 gives me more confidence. I think it's a mixture of the stability that it gives, the weight distribution of the racket. Because the AxForce 100 is a little bit more head heavy, so it gives a bit more satisfaction, when you drive through the shuttlecock. You feel a bit more like the Hawk, right? More powerful. Whereas the Halbertech gives you that very sharp feeling, like when you want to counter attack or when you want to do a quick smash, it is more satisfying. So it is not easy to pick which one I want, okay? But the next thing might help me determine it. Okay, so in the last episode, I talked about vibration or feedback from the racket when we make contact with the shutter. So the way that I would describe the Halbertech 8000 is that it gives a quick, sharp, and strong feedback. So every time when you hit the shutter, it feels like bang, right? It's a little bit brighter. Whereas for the AxForce 100, you feel like you're bulldozing over the shuttlecock. So it gives a more dull, lower tone kind of feedback. The feedback is still strong, but it doesn't shake so much, and it's a bit, it feels more like the shock is already being absorbed by the racket. So if I could mimic a sound, it feels like boom, 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 right? So this is very similar to people's preference when it comes to strings, right? There is no one string that is the best. It really depends on what you like. So some people describe this as a soft or hard feeling. Some strings give you that hard feeling and some strings give you that soft feeling. Now to me, I like to call it like either bright or dull, strong or soft, okay? And between these two rackets, by the way, I use the same strings and the same tension for both when I try them out, okay? So for the Halbertech 8000, it gives a strong, powerful, sharp, quick feeling, right? Whereas for the AxForce, it gives a stable, lower pitch, softer kind of vibration or feedback, right? I think if I play singles, I might choose the AxForce 100, but if I play doubles and I want the quickness, I think this gives me the power that I'm looking for. So if you're looking to upgrade your racket, should you consider these two rackets? Okay, I would say that it ultimately is not even about the style of your play, but to me the difference between these two rackets is which feeling do you prefer. Because ultimately I recognize that both of these two rackets delivers a powerful punch when it comes to a drive or for a smash, right? So if you're a doubles backcourt player, these two rackets is okay. Front court I think is still okay, but it's more suitable for those powerful players, okay? The difference is the feeling. If you like that sharp, quick feeling, if you like the explosiveness in it, I will recommend the Halbertech 8000, okay? But if you want something with, that feels a little bit more accurate, feels more stable, it doesn't give too much of a feedback, you want to feel it, you want to feel a more smoother stroke, I would recommend the AxForce 100. So ultimately, would I recommend this to my friends? Yes, I would. It really depends on what they're looking for in a racket. And if it's ever possible for you, you should try using a racket before you even make that purchase. So if this episode has been helpful for you, click like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!